Hello, welcome to How to Be Fashionable and Beautiful. I am Chani, fashion commentator.
And I'm Charisse Kenion, a beauty curator. Every week, this show is all about personal style, right, Chani? We're looking at how you find it. And each week, we're going to share with you tips from some of our favorite creators around the world at the end of each show. So before we get into it, make sure you like and subscribe. Chani, what are we talking about today?
Today, we are going to talk about Fashion Month. We've seen all the shows, we've digested them, we've had time to absorb the fashion, absorb the beauty. So we actually haven't discussed it. We've been banned from this topic. We want to share with each other and with you what our favourite moments are in terms of not just what we saw, but how it inspired us as well, because that's the point of personal style. How are you going to interpret what you see?
Do you want to go with your first pick?
Okay.
Or your first moment?
My first moment, I feel like it's going to be an obvious one for you, but you know what I'm going to choose. It was Deepetsa. Seeing Deepetsa's show live, like Charisse knows of all the shows that maybe if you don't know how it works with Fashion Week, you have the opportunity to RSVP to any shows you like. You find out at the 11th hour normally if you're attending. Sometimes you get invited. Sometimes you have to hustle, you know? So I was saying to Charisse, that is like the one show that I really would like to see. If there was only one show I could go to. So when I got that invite, I was like, but
wasn't I there or something? Or
you were there.
Was it like the day before we were hanging out?
We were on the train. We were going out, and I was like, I got the email. like a Cinderella moment, you know. But it couldn't have prepared me for what I saw. The performance quality that was put into that show was so moving. It started with like this kind of goddess women coming out on this big illuminated rock. There was one woman, she was all in gold, she was naked. Then there is 3, 4, or maybe 5. Don't quote me on the numbers here. There was a group of dancers like dancing around her, all in those signature wet look gowns. The lighting was kind of like, it reminded me of, did you ever watch the Beyonce documentary where she performed at the Revel Theatre? Not the documentary, sorry, the tour video. It was a tour film.
No, probably not then.
So basically there was a behind the scenes clip and they've lit the whole room in candles and she comes in and she's like, they're white. I want them to be off white.
Oh, yeah.
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 Rebel. It was like that. It was like the perfect candlelight warm, but it didn't overshadow the collection itself. Like sometimes a big moment like that can kind of, it becomes like, oh, this designer's not a gimmick and everyone just focuses on like, oh, gimmicks on the runway. The collection was so gorgeous. It was so ornate. And I just love to see the way that the femininity was displayed in so many different ways because they had people across the whole gender binary. There were people with these amazing clay sculptures to like make them.
Yes, I saw like almost like something to pour water from or something.
Yes, and it was all inspired by like ancient Greek myth. There were so many layers to that show, and I feel like she did such a great job of translating her idea because sometimes, you know what it's like. You've done journalism, many, you know, that's your thing. You see something, then you read the show notes or the press release, you're like, oh, damn, okay, makes sense. I feel like everything that was in those show notes, you could see where she was coming from. She was talking about love and the complexity of, you know, how it is to go from girl to woman. Like there were so many layers, but I just think it was displayed so beautifully. And to put it at its most frivolous, you know, silly level with no deep thought, nothing, the shallowest form, everyone looks sexy.
But that's what it is. That's what personal style is. It's like you go to a show and you will draw your own conclusions and then you look at the show notes and that's cool because you're working with what the designer says. But that doesn't discount your interpretations because that's what makes style so intrinsic and different for each of us. We interpret things. You and I could go to the same show and come out saying opposite things, but it doesn't mean that they're wrong.
Yeah, 100%. It's not fact. And you can always tell a good collection or a good show when the next time you get dressed, you feel it's like charged up. So the next day I put on all these like sheer sequins and, you know, I wanted to feel like one of Deepetsa's goddesses when I went to the next show that I went to the next day. So I knew her collection works. It worked on me. Like I must be, you know, the right person to receive that message or target audience or whatever. But it worked.
I feel you need to wear, I feel that collection would suit you as well though.
Listen, I want to wear all her pieces. Let's put it into the ether because girl, so gorgeous. And one more thing I want to say about it is I think with designers like Deepetsa, it's so easy to kind of get put in a box of being a one-trick pony because obviously she has such this signature technique she's developed to make things look wet when they're dry, which is so clever, so smart. But you know, she did introduce, like, it wasn't all white. There were flashes of bright pink, there was gold, there was a lot of crystal embellishment. Like, there were some pieces that I didn't clock straight away at the show, but when I looked back at the videos and the close-ups, the underlayer was actually all 100% crystal. But they were so small that they just kind of, it almost added to that water effect, but it's a new technique. I like innovation, you know, so there's a difference between having a signature style and being a one-trick pony, and I just think Tim's across the board for Dupetza.
It's hard for designers as well, though, because it's like the one-trick pony thing could also be seen as a brand signature. Do you know what I mean? So, and signatures are what gets you the loyal following, I feel, over time. So it's really funny. I think that's something we could talk about in another episode. Because,
Definitely.
it's like one-trick pony or signature style.
Yeah. Well, I'm actually going to talk about it on my next favourite, so.
Well, shall I share with you one of my beauty moments now?
I'm dying to know.
Well, it's very simple. You know me. I'm simple, but I'll throw one thing in there. And I feel like a lot of the trends, I saw it a lot backstage at London Fashion Week, but I also saw it reflected in New York as well. A kind of minimalism, but minimalism with the freshness. So I feel like when it came to the fashion, I think even you were getting a bit bored of New York Fashion Week. I heard a few people were a bit bored of how simple maybe it wasn't you, but I know I heard a lot of people saying they're a bit bored of New York Fashion Week because there's a lot of minimalism coming through.
I see that.
Some people, and some people were saying it was like you could either see it as a good thing, like a bit of 90s minimalism coming back, or some people thought it was boring. But I think when it comes to makeup, minimalism serves a purpose. It could be to show that the person that wears these clothes has more to think about than what they're putting on their face, especially, you know, like the way society and life and culture is going right now. There's a lot on our minds. Maybe we don't want to think about makeup. Or it's the Pamela Anderson effect, where she's like, I don't want to put a full face of makeup on. I want people to look at the clothes. So I feel like a key trend all across the board was like, spring, summer is always fresh skin, super fresh, super flawless, lots of shimmer and shine, kind of almost holographic finishes. But if you're going to do that, you kind of have to give the face one anchor point. And for me, Mugler was a big one in Paris because they had these 3D eyeliners, like coming out here. You could see it from the front. And what I loved is that makeup team was led by Lucy J. Bridge. I loved how that angular shape was reflected in the hair as well and the eyebrows. So the eyebrows were really skinny. The hair was by Olivier Showalter. So you had this 3D eyeliner coming out. Then you had these skinny eyebrows. And then the hair was parted like two partings here that led to the middle. Super slick, like crisply back and then tied with like these long black ribbons. And it was just like this very angular. So you had those lines, you had this line, you had that line, very angular. But the makeup colors themselves were really soft. So the lips were like a nudie rose. Some models it was matte, some were glossy, some it was almost like a blood red. So I liked how the show's makeup there was used to like give a little bit of individuality to each model, but it was all about this 3D eyeliner. And I did contact Lucy J. Bridge and I did contact someone I know that worked on the show, and neither of them told me how they did it. Which is definitely, but Lucy's really good at a lot of 3D stuff. Even if you look at a show she did afterwards, I forget who it was now, but she actually put feathers on people's eyes and faces. So the makeup was very much about keeping things stripped back, but you add this one element of like, bam. It doesn't have to be color. That's what I found interesting as well.
It can play with shape.
A black line.
Shape and texture. And I also like, you know, with the elements in the hair, which is so unusual to have these two parts when you're not having braids kind of thing, because the House of Mugler has a history of futurism. So I like you're talking about minimalism. It's almost like that is what no makeup look would be for somebody on planet Mugler, you know?
Yes.
Like it's not Earth, but it's still stripped back, and that could be natural if you know, that creature that Mugler creates. So I think it's really, really clever. Yeah,
like a 3D eyeliner could be seen as natural if you're living somewhere else. Yeah. So I thought it was really magical, beautiful. I love people were coming for Paris Hilton's walk, but I thought she really wore the eyeliner so well. I thought she looked really good. And also I need to know her quad workout because...
Damn. I think her quad workout is just that she's been wearing 6-inch stilettos, like, for the past 30 years. That'll do it. And about her walk, I also think her walk is just very, like, of her time. You know, it was like, she was like that girl, and it was when everyone was doing those, like, stompy walks on America's Next Top Model. You know, she's not a model. She is a big girl. And she's just of her era. And I think she has, like, sort of kept herself in a perfect time capsule, which is why she's still so ironically relevant now. So leave Paris alone.
That's so true, actually, because, like, has her face changed at all?
No.
And I don't even mean it as in she's been doing stuff. She literally looks...
She always says that she's... what did she say? She says that she is the original reality, the trendsetter for everything apart from surgery. Because she was like the first reality TV star, the first famous to not being famous. She's like, I set all of these trends, but she goes, the trend that I didn't set was surgery. I've never done anything to my face. And she says it on a lot of interviews. So
I like that.
Yeah.
I might have to get her book, actually. I see some people have been reading it and it's meant to be a really good read.
I read her first book, Confessions of an Heiress, in about 1 hour. Hopefully this one is better.
Is that because it was good or because it was simple? What do you want to share next, Chani?
On that note, okay. I changed this so many times.
I believe you.
Yeah. Because there was just too much to love. But I settled on this one because it has an emotional element as well. And I always like when it's a feast for the senses. So I want to talk about, and I can never pronounce his surname. So I'm going to act like we're best friends. I'm just going to call him Andreas. For Andreas' collection for Vivienne Westwood.
Come on, Chani. You got to try and say it.
It's not written. I can't be perfect at everything. I'm going to read it just so I can...
Give it a go.
And I've actually just written Andreas on my notes.
I'm sure it's Kontala.
Yeah, I'm just going to say Andreas. Vivienne Westwood's dear husband, Andreas, did that collection. The reason why I wanted to talk about it on this podcast that we're recording right now is because it feeds so well into the theme of personal style. Because the collection was inspired by what he saw when he was obviously having the horrible job that many can relate to of having to sort out a loved one's personal belongings. So he put together a collection that was inspired by all the many, many ways that Vivienne dressed herself. And it goes back to what we were talking about earlier about One Trick Pony or Signature, because as the models were coming out, you saw so many things that some more obvious that we think immediately that as a Vivienne Westwood house code, you know, corsets or the little horns, you know, plaid. But then there were just other things that I was like, oh my gosh, now that I'm seeing this look on somebody that isn't Vivienne Westwood herself, yeah, that's such a, like, just the fact that nothing's ever seamed, even now it's like a t-shirt. Everything's, you know, got texture. Because when it's a designer, you often think about, when she was living, you know, on Life with Us Today, you think about her output. Okay, what does she design for other people? You kind of forget sometimes that the way people dress themselves is a part of that. And she had such a strong brand herself. And she was such a pioneer for like, rewear your clothes, don't waste, put things together in new ways. Like layers, you know, but also like, she'll like, go and try, don't buy my clothes if you can't afford them, DIY it. Like, she was just, it's so true to her. And there were so many looks that came out when I was just like, it really, yeah, it not maybe emotional, maybe a little bit, but it was just...
Well, you're making me miss her. Yeah, and I didn't know her personally, but you're making me miss her.
It was sort of like so many iterations of the woman behind the scenes. And it was like, yeah, actually, that is Vivienne. And her soul was in that brand because she lived it every day. She dressed it every day. I just thought it was a really gorgeous way of doing a tribute. You know, a lot of times someone passes, they'll do an all black collection as a tribute, which is completely invalid. And, you know, people can express their grief however they want. But I just thought this was such a beautiful way to honour her. There were lots of, you know, we saw obviously that clip you mentioned about Pamela Anderson, and she was talking about her relationship with Vivienne Westwood and the big hats that we know Pamela for so well. It's actually a very big byproduct of her relationship with Vivienne Westwood. So it's all kind of linked together. A couple of looks that I wanted to highlight. Let me just refer to my notes. Oh yeah. So of course we had all of the Vivienne inspired looks, but at the end, of course, Shows Need a Bride. And we had obviously we had Arena Shayk looking stunning in that white corseted gown. And then we had, of course, her granddaughter, Cora Corey. And it must be so hard for her to keep doing all the stuff she's doing because she has really taken Vivian's legacy and ran with it since Vivian passed. I know they worked together a lot on their philanthropy and their campaigns while she was alive, but she's obviously taking the role very seriously. But she's also been, you know, appearing in more magazines, appearing in more shows. And all she talks about is the issues that Vivian cared about. She's really like going for it.
That is so good.
And it can't be easy because she has just passed away. It's still very fresh, you know? I just thought it was, of all the design attributes that I've seen, I think this was the most tasteful, the most authentic, and maybe because it is her husband, you know, and it is her granddaughter and it is the family. I just think it just felt so real, and I couldn't not talk about it because she's someone to honour.
No, I love it. And, you know, she's from, you know, she's from the UK. She's just instrumental in so many ways, like from the punk influence, like she was always someone that stood for a cause. She did not care what people said. She wasn't scared to open her mouth as a designer, as many designers are. You're not meant to have an opinion on worldly events. And I think she's a huge loss, but she's given us so much as well. Yeah. So how hard would it have been for him as a husband, but also as a designer? You know, you got to balance the two.
That's it. And luckily he's, you know, been working under her for so many years, over her shoulder, worked together. She, you know, he has been in that role for a long time now, but it's good that, you know, he really had that close relationship where he could get it right. And what I wanted to just add in, when we were talking about this signature style versus one trick pony thing, I had quite a funny conversation with a friend of mine a while ago who's like not into fashion at all, which I love talking to those people. And I was like looking for vintage Vivian Westwood pieces, as I always am. And she was looking at some of the things that I was bidding on, and she was like, but why would you spend so much money on that? You wouldn't even know it was Vivian Westwood because obviously there's no logo on it. And I was like, but if you know her shapes and her things, they speak for her. You don't need to put an orb on everything. Yeah. You know, she has so many beautiful cuts. And I just thought, you know, it's so funny when you speak to people that just aren't into what you're into. I love that. But for us,
I feel that that's another idea for a future episode. Logos. Do you need people to know what you're wearing?
No.
We need to talk about that because I think that says something else about you. Are you wearing it for you or wearing it for others? So
there's a lyric in a song by JME where he talks about people doing logomania. They're like F1 drivers.
Oh my God, they are. At least they're getting paid. They're getting paid for those logos. You're not. You're paying.
I have another friend. She calls it wrapping paper. Like gift wrap.
Right, so I wanted to share another beauty look. I've kind of got two because I feel like they reflect each other. Mm-hmm. And again, there's a little bit of Alien in there, which of course is a Mugler perfume and aesthetic. But at Richard Quinn, they called it, the hairdresser Sam McKnight called it Alien Victoriana. And those two words together, I'm already like intrigued. Mm-hmm. So for me, Victoriana is very much kind of dark. There's the romantic side, I think, you know, petticoats and all that stuff, and ribbons, which the second show I want to mention is Simone Rocha. So there's that prettiness, but I've always felt there's a dark edge with Victoriana, kind of like a gothic vibe. So at Richard Quinn, it was like the makeup was barely there. They actually called it waxy. Whoa. So it wasn't about that glossy, healthy skin. It was more like, I'm not going to say deathly pale, but kind of no life. So it was clean and it was matte. That was Terry Barber that did the makeup at Richard Quinn, using MAC makeup. And actually, it made me think I might want to try the new MAC Studio Radiance foundation. I think you might like it. It's a more sheer foundation that's just about
speaking my language.
And then the makeup colors themselves were kind of colors you'd associate with like not much sleep. So, you know, reds or maybe like yellow undertones and very little of it. But when combined with the hair, which was like, it was a middle parting, but it wasn't like tight, like say Mugler. It was more like undone straight, and it actually covered the model's ears. And at the back, it was like a braided chignon. So it was very romantic and pretty. But the two together, it's still quite an austere thing. So it still goes back to that minimalist vibe. And I feel the reason I liked it was the combination of the two, because the makeup was barely there and the hair wasn't from the front, it wasn't really done, but I felt the two together, it was kind of like a strict look. And I feel like, again, even if you look at current times, you know, like We're not in a recession, are we? But everybody's broke, right? And everything's expensive,
I
right?
think it's called a recession.
Right, yeah. So austerity always comes in. And even though this is spring, summer, obviously we're talking about, it's kind of like got this restraint. But obviously the clothes for Richard Quinn were not straight and whatever. They were very beautiful and soft. So I liked how the makeup was used to just rein things in a little bit. And I think, again, that's how a good makeup artist and hairstylist will work behind the scenes, because your work is not the star of the show. It's the clothes. And again, speaking of clothes, I mentioned Simone Rocha. She's someone that is known for layers and frills and ribbons. It's like ribbons in the hair, ribbons around the neck, ribbons on the clothes. That's the Simone thing. But the makeup there, she went for makeup by the Gucci global makeup artist, Thomas de Clover.
Mm-hmm.
And he made these most beautiful, I don't know if they were hand painted, but on the models' faces, there were flowers. So I was like, an easy way to do it would be like a transfer. You know, those old school transfers where you'd rub it and it would appear. Or somebody hand painted, because it might be on a cheek or it'd be at the back of somebody's neck. Other elements of flowers were, some of the models' eyelashes were actual petals. And then the nails, which were by Amakwashi, who the other day I was saying, we don't give Amakwashi enough respect as a nail tech, because she's been around it for a really long time. Mm-hmm. So she had this sheer nail polish on all genders, but with like these tiny little flowers. It was almost like they'd been pressed underneath the nail polish. So they were just very simple. And then we had the icon Cynthia Harvey on hair. And I feel like she really stripped everything back, because she knew there might be flowers on the face or petals on the face or flowers on the nails. Obviously, Simone's clothes are very extra, I feel. So the hair was just all about, I think it was just very loose, kept down, but you might see like a mask made out of beads over somebody's face, or tiny little pink ribbons in their hair, or tiny little black ribbons. And again, for me, it was very much Victoriana again. It's funny because me and you didn't plan together this episode what we're going to talk about, but I feel like there's some real threads. Yeah. Even Vivienne and Simone, I think some people could say there's correlations between the way those two approach design, but also I feel like, yeah, overall I'm feeling like minimalism is here for spring summer, and it's the clothes that do the
bam.
Yeah.
I love Richard Quinn, first of all, so I'm glad that you brought up that London's finest. You know, that's my kind of fashion to watch. You know, even if it's not something I like to partake in, although I'm lying because I absolutely would partake in dressing like that. But yeah, talk about somebody that knows how to put together colours and prints. Like that is a skill in itself and top notch. But I loved that. I didn't know the makeup was described like waxy, and you giving more context about this Victoriana thing. It made me think straight away that obviously in Victorian times, a lot of the beauty processes they would have had sort of dirty undertones, because like most of it would cover up that they were dying. Like, all the makeup and stuff was like to cover that they had boils from like the bubonic plague, and as you were saying, the lead poisoning, like they didn't wash, like the powders, like, so it's actually quite funny that they it was actually quite perfect that they was interpret that kind of face, because, you know, we only see these portraits that, you know, are painted to make them look like, you know, that was their face tune. So they probably really look like that, you know? They probably looked a hot mess in real life.
And they smell like a hot mess.
Yeah. But yeah, I just, actually, I'm learning more about the makeup from you. That was a perfect touch for that show.
So, Chani, I'm done with mine. Is there anything else you want to add before we remind people to like and subscribe if they want more of this?
Music to my ears, Charisse, because I was sitting here like a naughty schoolgirl, like, I've got an honorary mention.
Go for it.
And like, you know, I had to honour Vivienne because, you know, God rest her soul. But did you see the Issey Miyake collection?
No, I didn't. And that is really bad because I'm busy.
Saw it. But, you know, I saw like on Vogue when I was flicking through, but clearly I wasn't looking with my eyes. I was looking with like some other body part, because I watched a video by, do you ever watch on YouTube Bliss Foster?
No.
You will love this Bliss Foster. The most lengthy, deep, intellectual vlogs where he'll go around Fashion Week and vlog, but give you so much context. Like, it's just very intellectual. I think you would love his videos. I was watching a 2-hour Paris Fashion Week video the other day. The Issey Miyake collection, I only want to honourable mention one garment because I know it's an honourable mention. But there were these suits that were done with this technique that was like, it looks like the fabric has been twisted, like wrung, but it had stayed in that shape. So it was like the suit was like draping, sort of like wrapped around, but there was no wrapping. And I was like, how the hell Satoshi did it? I love when I see something that I feel like is new. And I want to say it might not be new. And I know that there was a lot of reference in this collection to like previous Issey Miyake collections, a lot of 90s, a lot of 80s. That's fine. But when something feels fresh to my eyes, you know, I haven't seen that. Maybe it's a reference, but it's done in a way that it feels like, as you were saying earlier, it's so hard to see something new. That felt new to me. And I'm not saying it is or it isn't. I'm saying for me, it felt new and it made me really excited. And I had to just mention that suit because what technique?
That's really exciting.
When you saw that picture, Charisse, don't you just want to know, what does it feel like on? I want to wear it.
Stiff? Does it move with the body?
Yeah.
Because, you know, as someone that's got like hips and butt, it's like, is that going to look good on a shape? So I would love to see it on someone.
It just feels like uncharted territory that I just want to put on and I just want to know about it. That's what clothes should do, right? So that's my honorable mention. Thanks for letting me have one because you know what I'm like.
Well, I love it. And obviously people need to stick around, like, subscribe, all that stuff, and check out our tip from one of our international creator friends that we're going to pop right at the end. Be sure to follow me and Chani on socials. They'll be on the bottom of the screen for you. Anything else from you, Chani?
Thanks for watching.
See you next time.
Bye.
It's Mars, lover of all things iconic, and I think the best way to find your personal style is to act like you're baking a cake. So the first thing you want to do is find those key ingredients. Key ingredients meaning wardrobe staples. So find those things that really make you feel good and confident when you wear them. For me, a wardrobe staple is a white button-up with abstract detailing or exaggerated sleeves, or a piece of tailored denim that has like this very unique quality to it. For you, it could be anything from a shoe to a bag to some earrings. Like, it can be a wardrobe staple, can be anything. Just make sure it's something that you can wear a lot and something that really personifies who you are as a person. Another wardrobe staple for me is a tabby boot. A tabby just always brings my look together because it exudes my personal style. Once you have those key ingredients, you want to go ahead and throw them all in a pot and you want to bake your cake. So you want to find the foundation of your personal style, meaning that once you have all your wardrobe staples, no matter how you pull them together, it's always going to give a look because it's a combination of what your personal style is. Once you have that foundation, you want to always put icing on your cake. And the icing is yourself, your confidence, how you feel, how comfortable you are in your looks. Because then at that point, nothing else matters because it's your opinion of yourself. And that's kind of what matters. If someone else kind of likes the look, then that's the cherry on top. But long as you are comfortable with the look, that's kind of all that matters. And go out in the world and take up space.